What's up, guys? Welcome back to Must Have Wheels. Today we're getting back to the Mini Zs. So the last couple of Mini Z related videos, we spoke about the differences between the MA030, the MR03 versus the MA020, and we sent them both on the track and we got our results. Obviously my opinion is going to be different than other people's, but for me, I prefer a two-wheel drive on the road course when it comes to stock versus stock. So now we're going to do a little bit of a shootout between two all-wheel drive vehicles. So on the left, the R33 GTR, that is a box stock all-wheel drive drift car. To the right, the STI, we got an MA030EVO. That's a brushless series. So we're going to do a little bit of head-to-head. Today we're going to be drifting. We're going to do some comparison between the brushed and brushless version. And we're going to see which one I prefer for drifting. Again, my opinion is going to vary from yours or other people's. But this is going to be my personal preference, which one I'm going to prefer to drift. To keep this on equal grounds for both cars, because they're very, very different cars. And I'm going to pop the shells off in a sec, and I'll show you what I mean. But for the testing purposes, we have aftermarket wheels and tires on this guy, and we have factory wheels and tires on this guy. I actually tend to like the stock drift tires better than these tires that I'm running on this car. We'll talk more about that later. So what I'm going to do is, to keep it even, I have two R32 GTRs, just the shells. I'm going to pop both of those on both of these cars. So we're literally comparing the same cars, the same weight distribution, all that. There's not going to be any advantages for either car. Besides the fact that one is the stock brushed and one is the stock brushless. Also, to keep things fair, I'm going to use these tires on both vehicles for testing. So again, there are no advantages either way. All right, guys, so here's the two cars with the bodies popped off. This is the MA020, this is the MR030. Both all-wheel drive. This one's brushed. This one's brushless. I believe this is the 8500 kV model. So off the top, you can see by looking at the front of the cars, the suspension setup in the front are pretty much identical. And if you flip it around to the back, you're going to notice that it's equally identical. So that's pretty cool. The chassis layout itself is very much different. And one of the biggest complaints I had about this car when I was doing the comparison between this and the MR03 is weight distribution. So yeah, we got the motor right down here at the bottom, along with two batteries. But the other two batteries sit way up here. And so does the main board. So you got a lot of weight on the top of this car. That might actually help for drifting. But it certainly doesn't do any justice on the track. This car here, all the batteries are at the bottom. So where the MA020 has one clip, you remove this clip and you can pop all four batteries out from there. This is a little bit more complicated. It's a little bit more time consuming and it's a little bit more of a pain, but it's for a good reason. So we've managed to get all the batteries at the bottom of the chassis, which is great. The only problem is there's a separate cover here for the bottom for two batteries. There's a cover on one side for one battery and a cover on the other for the other battery. So it's a little bit of a mission, but I mean, it's all good. It's all for the greater good. We do still have a lot of top heavy weight here. We got the motor up here, and then we got the main board in the back. But I feel like having all those batteries spread out so low will really give this thing an advantage. And that's speaking on the track. I'm not too sure how it's going to translate for drifting. Now, both chassis, I'm not sure if the camera is going to pick it up, but they're, oh yeah, they are the narrow configuration. They're both running 94 millimeter wheelbase, and they're both going to be running the same bodies. So that's it, guys. I'm not going to get into too much detail. I want to get these things on this little course that I set up in my basement and see how they both perform. All right, guys, I got the bodies swapped. I'm going to run the brushed version first. When I'm done with that run, I'll swap the wheels over to the brushless, and I'll do the same test with the brushless car. The bodies are exactly identical, just with a different livery, so this should keep everything fairly even. All right, guys, the results are in. I hope you guys enjoyed that little clip that I put together for you. I hope you guys can see that the struggle was real filming this video. There were so many takes for the brushless version of this car. The brushed MA020, this car for low speed drifting, like what I had set up in my basement, is phenomenal. The brushed motor really gives you that slow crawl at low speeds. For those of you into crawlers, most guys are running either brush setup or censored brushless setups, and the main reason for that is the smooth on and off throttle, no cogging, slow creep, slow crawl. And that's a big deal for me, for this guy. This is what's taking the cake for me. Trying to maneuver around those really tight areas with very minimal throttle is key. And unfortunately, with the brushless, it's literally impossible. The throttle is either on or off. There's no easing into it. It doesn't really cog because there's no traction. But again, that there's no smooth delivery. That first startup of power is always very aggressive, for lack of better words. Also, trying to maintain a very slow drift with that car is so hard, because the second you let that throttle off a little bit too much, it cuts the motor speed to zero. And it's like applying the brakes midway through a drift, and it completely throws the line off. So I really, really struggled with this guy. Again, these are with the stock Kyosho wheels. I usually don't run these wheels when I'm drifting around my house. And the reason for that is these just don't have any traction. I mean, I know drift, it makes sense. You don't want traction, you want to slide the car. But this thing's got so much power that sometimes a little bit more traction will actually benefit you. And that's why I switched to these wheels. Focus in here. So these are DS Racing. I picked them up at my local track, Barrie RC. This is where we go to race mini Z's. I don't know anything about drifting, tire compounds, this and that. So I just bought a couple of different sets, and this is what I ended up with on that car. And they seem to work way better than the stock tires, only because they actually grip a bit better than the stocks. So I'm going to slap those on. Maybe I'll get some running footage in for you guys at the end of this video so you can see the difference. But filming that was a struggle, guys. I want to stress that. The brushed car did very well, and I'm more than pleased with it. So I guess where we're going with this is stock versus stock out of the box between the two of them. For my setup and my driving style, I prefer the brushed over the brushless. This is going to take the cake for me 100%. If I had to choose one for what I do with them in my house, in the basement, on the floor that I have down here, this works the best. I have the most fun with it. It's so easy to drift. It's so easy to control. So that's going to take the cake for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please smash that subscribe button. Also, if you like the content and you want to see more of this Mini Z content, hit the like button. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next time. All right, guys, there it is. I'm not sure if it's going to show in the video that it was a lot easier to control the car this time around. And again, this is the MA030EVO 8500 kV. All I did was swap the wheels and tires, the body, and for me it's a lot easier to control. Actually, the footage that you're watching with the white STI was my warm-up driving. I just decided to film the warm-up for some reason. I usually don't. I usually try to get a few minutes in and get warmed up and get into the groove, but that was the warm-up. Probably could have done a bit better if I spent more time, but you know what? For me, I was happy with it. It felt so much better. But the purpose of this video was to show stock versus stock. And again, even in this form, I still prefer drifting with the brushed car, the MA020. Again, personal preference. But guys, I really hope you enjoyed it. Next time you see these two, it'll be on the grip track, on RCP track. So stay tuned. That video should be coming up shortly. Thanks for watching, guys.